Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving deep into one of Africa's most magnificent animals, the white rhinoceros. You might think you know them, but there's so much more beneath the surface. We're going to explore everything from their incredible anatomy to their surprisingly complex social world. Let's get started.
Okay, so let's start with the most obvious question, right? Why on earth is it called a white rhino when, well, it's gray? I mean, pretty clearly gray. This is a great little piece of animal kingdom trivia, and trust me, the answer is probably not what you're thinking.
So there are actually two big theories floating around, and honestly, they're both pretty cool. The one that most experts agree on is actually a classic case of mistranslation. See, the Afrikaans word is wijd, which sounds a lot like white, right? But wijd actually means wide, and it's talking about the rhino's super wide, square mouth. Then you've got the other idea, the wallow theory. Rhinos absolutely love to roll around in the mud. So some people think early observers just saw them covered in this light-colored, chalky mud and thought, hey, that's a white rhino, and the name just kind of stuck.
And that wide mouth, it's not just a fun fact about its name. Nope, it's literally the key to its entire way of life. So let's dive into that. We're going to look at the amazing toolkit this animal has that makes it the perfect master of the grasslands.
This right here, this is the absolute biggest difference between the white rhino and its cousin, the black rhino. It's all in the mouth. Think of the white rhino as a giant living lawnmower. That wide, square lip is perfect for just mowing down huge swaths of grass. But the black rhino? It's more like a delicate tool. It has this pointed hook lip that it can use almost like a finger to pick and choose individual leaves and twigs off bushes. It's incredible. And this one single difference defines everything. What they eat, where they live, the whole shebang.
And because their diets are so different, their entire bodies are built differently. It's a total domino effect. You can see here, the white rhino, our grazer, is bigger, more barrel-shaped, and its head is always held low to the ground. Makes sense, right? Its ears are longer too, kind of like little radar dishes, picking up sounds while it's busy munching on grass. Now, the black rhino, the browser, is a bit smaller and more compact, and it holds its head up high, ready to reach into those bushes for a snack.
And check this out. This is how it all works. To hold up that massive head, we're talking over 200 kilograms. While grazing for hours and hours every single day, the white rhino has this massive, muscular hump on its neck. It's just a powerhouse of an adaptation, an absolutely incredible piece of natural engineering.
Okay, so that's the hardware. We see how they're built. But what about their software? How do they actually live? You might picture rhinos as these big, solitary loners, but for white rhinos, that couldn't be further from the truth. They actually have a super complex and fascinating social life. So let's get into it.
All right, first things first, you got to know this. What do you call a group of rhinos? A crash. How cool is that? And get this, the southern white rhino is considered the most social of all the rhino species. They have these really intricate communities that scientists are, still figuring out.
Yeah, a crash isn't just some random hangout session. It's a whole society with rules. You've got the adult bulls, who are mostly solitary, kind of like the grumpy kings of their own little castles. But the real heart of the community, that's the females and their calves. And then you have these temporary groups of younger males, bachelor groups. You can basically think of them as a roving band of teenagers just hanging out together until they're ready to go find their own territory.
And this is a really important distinction in how they live. The bull's territory is pretty small, just a few square kilometers, but he defends it with everything he's got. It is his space. The females, or cows, are different. They have a much larger home range, which isn't defended. It's more like their general neighborhood, and it can overlap with the territories of several different males. This whole system is how they manage to find each other and, keep the population going. So if they have this whole social structure, how do they all stay in touch? You might think they'd be calling out to each other or using visual cues, but that's not really it. They communicate in a way that's almost invisible to us, in a hidden world of chemical signals. It's basically a social network built entirely on smell. And the secret to this social network is their superpower. See, white rhinos have pretty terrible eyesight. They can't see very well at all, but to make up for it, they have an absolutely phenomenal sense of smell. I mean, the part of their head dedicated to smelling is actually larger than their brain. They literally live in a world of scent, decoding information that we can't even begin to imagine. So how does it work? How do you talk with smell? Well, they use these things called middens, which are basically communal bathrooms, but it's so much more than that. The best way to think of it is like a community bulletin board or a social media feed. Every time a rhino makes a deposit, it's leaving a chemical message.
It's a status update that says who they are, their age, their sex, if they're ready to mate. Other rhinos will come by, have a good sniff, and get all the latest gossip. And the big territorial bulls, they'll kick their dung around and spray urine everywhere to post a very clear message. This is my land. Stay out.
Of course, this whole intricate social world has to start somewhere, right? And it all begins with the next generation. The journey of a white rhino from a tiny calf to a full-grown adult is a really amazing story of patience and incredibly strong family bonds.
And that journey begins slowly. We're talking about a 16-month pregnancy. 16 months. That is one of the longest in the entire animal kingdom. Just think about that for a second. A year and a half before the calf is even born. And when that baby finally arrives, it's no lightweight. A newborn calf can weigh up to 65 kilograms. It might be a little wobbly on its feet at first, as you can imagine, but within just a few days, it's up and following its mom everywhere. And they stick together for a long time. For the next 3 years, that calf is basically mom's shadow. This isn't just about protection. It's a long apprenticeship. The calf has to learn everything: where to find the best food, how to deal with other rhinos, all the rules of living in the crash. And here's a really sweet detail about how they parent. With a lot of animals, the baby follows behind the mother. But not with white rhinos. The calf actually walks out in front, and the mom follows closely behind. She uses that big horn of hers not to be aggressive, but just to gently nudge the little one, steering it and keeping it safe. It's amazing to see. So we've seen how they live, but their importance goes way beyond their own families and their own crash. A white rhino isn't just a resident of the savanna, it's a builder. They're what scientists call a keystone species, which means they're like ecological engineers. Their everyday actions literally shape the world for everyone else.
So how do they engineer an entire ecosystem? Well, for starters, all that grazing they do creates these things called rhino lawns, patches of short, nutritious grass that other, smaller animals need to survive. And their love of a good mud bath? That constant wallowing actually keeps water holes open and accessible for all the other animals that need a drink. And finally, well, what goes in must come out. They eat over 50 kilos of grass a day, and that produces over 20 kilos of, well, natural fertilizer, which keeps the soil rich and healthy for everyone.
So when you look at a white rhino, you're not just seeing a big, gray animal. You're seeing an engineer, a socialite, a communicator, living in a world of scent that we can barely comprehend. It really makes you think, you know? The world is just full of these hidden languages, these secret conversations happening all around us. What else is out there that we're just not seeing or smelling?